I wish I had all the knowledge I have now back when I was 16 to 28. Gen Z, I'm talking to you. Mainly if you are 16 to 28, then this video is for you, but these 13 finance tips will even be helpful if you are a little older. Welcome back to the channel. I'm John, a CPA, and I talk about finances, taxes, and economic news. Today I want to catch up with you and share a little insight as I can for people trying to get their feet under them. All these finance tips I'm going to share are going to be helpful, and quite a few I've even applied myself. But if I had known number 10 and 13, that would help me immensely in my 20s. So let's start off with a person who is around college age, trade school, or in their early 20s. I touched on it a bit in my earlier video, and I think it really resonated with people. Young professionals should live at home longer. There's this stigma that it's not the cool thing to do. And personally, I get it. I wanted to be out on my own as soon as possible. But looking back, the amount of money I could have saved living longer at home would have been amazing. And now some of you out there might have parents who want to charge you rent, and I'd argue it would still be cheaper to live at home versus venturing out and buying a place or renting a place. There are two key things to watch out for though. If your parents don't live near any jobs, say you're in finance but the closest jobs are an hour away, then I would look at my options. The second point, it's to put that money you're saving to good use. I talk about that here in a point near the end. Keep in mind that living at home could mean being more comfortable than renting. Imagine your parents live on a lake or near the city center. Most Gen Zers aren't buying real estate compared to the false beliefs posted online. It's purely out of their price range, and it does make sense. Parents in their 40s or 50s statistically have a longer period of life that they've saved up, and they might be on their second or third property that they've transitioned into. The second tip goes hand in hand with the first. And I talked about the drawbacks of your parents not living close to jobs. That's something you can't control. One thing I wish I would have done was rent it closer to my first job. I always was commuting, and it was time wasted. The catch was rent was high near the good jobs. One wise accountant told me back in 2015 something along the lines of, I spent a lot of money to live close to work, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Now that stuck with me ever since, and he surely paid $1 million back then to be about a mile from work. And it's probably worth $2 to $3 million now. The real kicker was the time he saved and he could spend with his family. That said, this accountant was in his 40s, so I'm not saying Gen Zers can take on $1 million mortgage, but my tip is live as close as possible to work if your parents aren't near the jobs or you don't have a situation to live at home. One overlooked hack for a lot of younger individuals is living with roommates. It's one way to cut rent in half or into thirds. If you're renting by the bedroom, I always found it to be quite unsexy when I was just getting out of college, and I was in a relationship at the time. Fast forward from 22 to 23 to 28, and I was living with roommates. It was one of the best things I did for my finances. Rent was cheaper, I was living closer to work, and stress was down. You also have to keep in mind that you're really only home to eat and sleep during this time. During this period, I was working like 8 to 10 hours a day. Now, while it may seem unsexy at first to live with two other people, your finances are gonna look sexy. And keep in mind, if these tips are resonating with you, please hit that thumbs up for this video, give it a like, and a bit of engagement in the comments section would mean the world to me. Subscribe if you would like to even see more. Now let's imagine you're living at home or near the jobs. You might even be renting. We have to get our foot in the job market. It was tough when I came out of college. The unemployment rates were no better than they are today. And I said in my other video, it may have been a bit easier because AI wasn't taking the entry-level positions. That said, with countless interviews, I only had one real job offer. You have to keep in mind that when coming out of school, you're asking an organization to take a bet on you. And I felt like I knew the world, but I had that degree in hand and I was quickly humbled. Was it the best salary? No. Was it the best commute? No, it wasn't easy. And I'm just sharing my experience because while there's a ton of outliers out there who get a bunch of job offers, it's just not always the truth. I was just happy to get my foot in the job market. I knew with some experience and some years under my belt, I could move up. While my advice isn't to take the first job you're offered in your career path, at least consider the opportunity if you want to get your foot in the door. You can work your way up. It almost goes without saying that the job markets are really tough right now. So if you are getting offers, then I want to extend my congrats to you. So you have your foot in the door and you're professionally employed. My advice to you is start investing as early as possible, and I can't reiterate this enough, but you might wonder, what does that look like? It's not Robinhood, it's maxing out your company match and taking advantage of a retirement plan. From there, consider an IRA like a Roth if you want your money to grow tax-free into the future. If you want me to deep dive into employee retirement plans or explain IRAs, let me know in the comments and I can make a separate video just focused on these topics. Okay, so you've been at your job. What's the rule of thumb before moving? I'd say at least give it 2 years and then consider moving. And this is advice for someone who's new in their career. Set some goals for yourself. Maybe jobs will pay for training or credentials. Try to get everything you can out of your job, and then you want to think about moving. Ideally, I'd say you want resumes out at least about 1 year and 9 months into the job. But what's really the importance of moving? Higher pay and new skills. My biggest pay bumps, they came every time that I moved organizations. Don't feel locked into a job when you're young. Annual increases, if you're lucky, they're going to be in the 2 to 6% range. If you find a new job, that pay bump could be in the 10 to 25% range. Not only that, but you'll expand your network, see new processes and systems at a new company. The next 3 tips are less work related and more personal, so I think they may really resonate with some of you. We have to talk about car payments. When you're just starting out in your career, you don't need to drive the fanciest vehicle. Too often, I see people out of college taking out a loan on a Jeep or truck or even a luxury car that they simply don't need. People get caught in the cycle of paying interest while the vehicle depreciates. That simply means they lose value. Comment below if you know someone who has been in a situation of a high car payment. I'm going to give you the advice to drive what you can afford. Now, you don't need to be impressing people. You don't need to be showing off. And you simply just need to get from point A to point B. Now, car payments are the new financial suck in terms of locking people in to as long as 7 to 8 years. It's absolutely crazy. Even before buying a car, you're gonna need some credit. It's much easier if you're buying with cash and buying something like a used car. If you're on the younger side, start building credit as early as possible. That doesn't mean open a credit card and abuse it. Rather, get into healthy cycles of putting your needs on the card and getting points back. Then pay it off before the due date. Almost 50% of Americans have credit card debt by well-known estimates. Try to be on that other half of the 50% that doesn't have credit card debt. Build a good credit score and you will be rewarded in the long run. The next tip is for all of you extroverts. Don't overdo it on those nights out. I'd say from like 23 to 27, there were countless nights out where I'd go out with a friend and it could be a Wednesday all the way through to a Saturday and spend easily $50 to $100 on drinking. It becomes a really slippery slope with how much you can spend. And I don't want to get too much into it, but just keep it in mind. Have fun out there, but track your finances. Looking back, I'd love to have some of that cash back. The nights start to blur together as I get older. The next one is pretty serious, and I just wish I would have got it right. Think about your goals with a life partner. I spent way too many years in a relationship I couldn't see a future in, but stuck it out. It wasn't healthy for myself or myself financially. Picking a good life partner goes a long way. Maybe you're looking for someone who meets your values, is a budgeter, has some financial sense, isn't wasteful with their money. Think about if you're a materialistic person and if they are as well. At the end of the day, kind and caring is key in a good partner. Don't just stick out a relationship if it's not going anywhere and you don't see a future. Nothing good is going to come of it. All right, I seriously feel better with that one off of my chest. And honestly, I didn't even know if I was going to include it because it was a tough one to talk about. But I think some people would want to hear it. Now, I want you to invest in yourself. Make the best possible version of yourself. And I talked about how you should take advantage of things that your work might offer, such as benefits towards further schooling or credentials. For me, at my first job, they paid for my CPA study materials and the fees to take the exams. Honestly, coming out of college, I was super broke, but it was everything for me. I put myself into the books and took advantage of the situation. Meanwhile, I had friends who did better than me in college, and they didn't do any credentials after college. Keep studying, keep improving yourself, and always continue to upskill. Now, aside from moving jobs, it's a great way to stay relevant in the job market and try to at least get a higher salary. If there's one thing that's up for debate, but I wanted to throw in here, it's the next one. I kick myself for not taking advantage of the low interest rates just a few years back. I don't think I seriously realized how crazy it was when interest rates were in the 3 to 4% range. Right now, many boomers would say rates at 6% are still low. They face 10 to 13% in their 20s and 30s. I'm not saying 6 is amazing or that we're going to 10%. All I'm saying is if there's rates in the 3 to 4% range again, at least take this as a long, hard thought on utilizing them. Hindsight's 2020, but I would have loved to go back and lock in a mortgage around 3%. To go hand in hand with tip number 5, take it as fair warning to invest in something safe. You can have a higher risk tolerance when you're younger, but try to build up some investments, the earlier the better. I'm sure you've heard it for a while now. A well-diversified index fund will go a long way. There's a lot of things to distract you out there though. Once you start earning some money, put it into something well-diversified. While everyone online touts the next stock, the next crypto, or the next big win, you'll sleep better at night knowing you're well-diversified. Try to build a retirement after all. There are countless people out there that look back and wish they could have done more. But what should you do before investing? I wanted to save this tip to the end because it's important to tell you how it's played out in my life. Always try to save some cash and set it aside for an emergency fund. That's 3 to 6 months expenses typically. And I tell you this because there were multiple times, especially my first properties, that I had to liquidate investments to put down payments on those. I would have loved for that money to stay in the market. Unexpected things hit. I needed a different vehicle in the past, AC units go bad, or dental bills. Looking back, there's not a time where I would have wanted a smaller emergency fund. A bigger emergency fund has always done better for me. At least I found so. But it's tough. I'll be brutally honest with you. When you're just getting out there, just starting running, just getting your first job and have bills, it's not easy to be able to save. It just seems like there's an expense around every corner. Try to put some money aside, build that emergency fund, and it'll help your stress levels. If you haven't left a comment already below, I'd love to know which tip you found most useful. Please consider doing a favor, subscribing, and I'll see you in another video. Oh, and if you haven't seen my video on Gen Z and the job market, now might be time to give that a watch. I think it's really going to be right up your alley.